Well, it has been a huge election day as the United States votes for their 47th president. But while a lot of people are tuning into the news of whether that would be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, there is so much more to this election than which party and candidate wins.
We're going to pay you back. We're going to do the best job. We're going to turn it around. It's got to be turned around. It's got to be turned around fast. And we're going to turn it around. We're going to do it in every way, with so many ways, but we're going to do it in every way.
Now that Donald Trump has accepted his win for the presidency, let's go through what else voters were deciding on today. In some states, when voters head to the poll, there are certain things, certain measures that voters will be asked about. These include changes to abortion rights, changes to crime, and immigration in respective states. So what does that mean? Well, it varies in different states, but having these issues on the ballot is an easier way to gauge how constituents in the states feel about potentially adding or taking away restrictions on top political issues in the country. Let's start with abortion, which has been a hotly contested issue for decades, but more so since 2022, when the Supreme Court justices voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, which meant abortion access and reproductive rights in general would now be put in the states to decide. So which states succeeded in gaining enough votes to implement abortion changes? Well, in Colorado, voters passed the measure for Amendment 79, which would stop the state from denying or discriminating individuals' right to an abortion when 61% of voters were in favour of the change. In Colorado, it needed the approval of 55% to pass the change, and it will now be codified into state law. Maryland was another state that approved the measure when, before all the votes had even been counted, 74% had been in favour of changes to enshrine abortion rights into the state constitution. Again, in Missouri, voters backed to amend the end to abortion bans despite heavy Republican state leadership. This means that there will be no legal implications on abortions in Missouri up until the fetal viability, which is around 24 weeks. New York, a blue state, approved Proposition 1, known as the Equal Rights Act, which enshrines a woman's right to choose by about 62%. Some states did not pass any changes to abortion law, such as Florida, which rejected a measure, a proposal known as Amendment 4, which wanted to allow abortions up until 24 weeks. The failed amendment means that abortion will remain illegal in Florida from 6 weeks on. Nebraska approved an anti-abortion measure that restricts individuals from getting an abortion in the first trimester of pregnancies, which is 12 weeks. South Dakota rejected the proposal on its ballot to enshrine abortion rights into the state law, while Arizona overwhelmingly approved enshrining it into its law. Right now, there is no word on if Nevada has passed their proposal, while Montana looks to be on its way to also establish the right for individuals to have access to abortion, as the percentage currently sits on about 58% when it needed 50% to be passed. Crime was on the ballot box in California when voters approved a measure that will impose stricter penalties for repeated theft and crime. The passing of Proposition 6 means that individuals be slapped with a felony charge if they steal merchandise of any value, if they already have 2 previous offences against them, and could potentially face longer jail time for it. This also includes drug offences, as homelessness and fentanyl addiction has risen significantly in California, namely San Francisco. This comes after the fact that crime had become a huge issue in California in the last few years, with many believing that the state is too lenient on crime and drug offences. California also had a big win after approving a change to amend the language of the state constitution when it comes to marriage. Voters approved removing the language that says that marriage is between a man and a woman. Now, in Florida, the state has failed to legalise marijuana for over 21-year-olds after nearly 56% of voters were in favour of the amendment, but the proposal needed 60%. Voters in North Dakota rejected recreational use of cannabis for the 3rd time in 6 years, and as did South Dakota. For immigration, just residents of Arizona had changes on the ballot box. The state passed Proposition 314, which would increase border law enforcement allowing for state and local police to enforce immigration laws and increase penalties for the sale of fentanyl. Arizona is one of the 4 border states, so it bears the brunt of increasing numbers of migrants crossing into the United States, as well as the smuggling of drugs from Mexico into the US. Lots of changes came for various states today when it comes to minimum wage. In Arizona, voters rejected a decrease for tipped workers, which would mean that workers would be paid less per hour than the minimum wage. California still haven't decided to increase the minimum wage by $18 an hour by 2026. Massachusetts has rejected increasing the wage of tipped employees until it meets the state minimum wage in 2029 and will still require tipping. Missouri has passed the minimum wage of $13.75 an hour by 2025 and an increase to $15 by 2026, as well as requiring employers to provide 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 30 hours worked. So there you have it, another election decided. Take a look at the victory speech from Donald Trump tonight as he took to the stage in West Palm Beach, Florida, with his entire family and the newly elected VP, J.D. Vance.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.